All right, man. Perfect. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Hey Brian, it's 2 weeks away. 2 weeks away.
Final countdown, man. Final countdown. It is coming for sure, whether we're ready or not.
Yeah. I've been organizing many different events here in Latvia and I've been involved in everything. But it's a very big event. It's a big international event. Like how many like what year is this? Like how many in a row?
So we actually started the initial Shaw Classic started in 2020. And
2020.
I just cleared out my gym spaces and we flew the guys in and we did it, because that was the only way we could do it then. And it's just grown and grown since then. So this technically will be our sixth year, but each year it's got bigger and there's more going on and it's just got more involved, I guess, like with the expo and of course with arm wrestling, we got powerlifting, we got strongman, all the different things going on. So there's a lot of moving parts.
I had a talk with Derek Smith. I think a year or two ago when he was there, and he said like, dude, that was amazing. He was like, that was one of the best things I ever been involved to. He's like, oh, you should come. Like he was giving me, we're I think in Turkey for East versus West, and he was telling me all the good things about it. And then he said, Brian might be interested in arm wrestling. And I said, "Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting."
Yeah, man. We actually had a couple super matches two years ago.
Yeah.
And what we did is we put them between the strongman events. So we brought out the arm wrestling table right in front of the crowd and did both of those. And unfortunately, two injuries happened. And it's like, how often does that happen, right? Like you almost never see that. And then, so the crowd, I was kind of wanting the crowd to get more into it, where it's like you had kind of like one of these battles where, it's just, everybody's getting into it and getting hyped up and that type of thing. And then it was like, oh, two injuries. And so it's kind of a letdown on that front. But I know the guys had a good time. And I think, that was the initial start of it. And that was, of course, where I was getting interested in training for arm wrestling. I was still competing in strongman at that point, so I couldn't quite jump over fully. But that's interest was already there, man. I've been interested in arm wrestling for a long time. So
So tell us how it's gonna look. Like, how is the week gonna look? And for the people, how can, if anyone wants to travel and they still are kind of on the fence to should they come or not, how it's going to look like for the audience?
yeah, so everything we'll be doing stuff with the athletes starting a little bit earlier in the week, and that'll all kind of be interviews and some of the behind the scenes stuff. Everything for the public, I guess, will start on Friday. So
Mhm.
on the Friday, we'll have the Shaw Classic Expo going down. We've got the whole arm wrestling tournament that's happening in the expo. So that's free for the public to come and watch. They'll be able to come in. We'll have all the booths set up and we'll have guest speakers as well as part of the expo. So that's just something, it's really cool, honestly. Like if people are around or they're there or they're making a trip, it's kind of like just a bonus on top of going and watching, of course, like the super matches. And those will happen later on Friday. And then on Saturday, we'll have the expo again. And that's when the strongman, the strongest man on earth, will start. So that goes down Saturday afternoon. There's four events. And then on Sunday, the expo in the morning. And then in the afternoon, the final four events of the strongman contest. So, if you're coming out for the weekend, obviously, and are interested in arm wrestling, Friday's the day mainly for that. And then Saturday and Sunday would be more dedicated to strongman if you want to watch that. But it'll be crazy, man. Some of the events we have those guys doing this year will be fun. It'll be fun to watch.
Or maybe you can give some of the names that are coming for the strongman competition.
Yeah, so I would say right now, unfortunately, Hafthor Bjornsson turned down his invite to come
Mm.
because he was focused on doing his deadlift. And then Mitch Hooper had said yes, and he pulled out. He was last year's winner. So it's to be fair, it's wide open. We've got a number of different guys coming in. Lucas Hatton is a guy that was on the podium last year, so he's coming in, and we've got a max log press that the guys are going to do. So he may break the world record in the log potentially. I think he's got a chance. There's another guy named Trey Mitchell that's won the Shaw Classic twice. So he's coming back looking bigger and stronger than ever. And then you go down the list, we got Tom Stoltman coming, who has won World's Strongest Man, so he'll be there. And then there's 16, so it's the best 16 strongman, and then 8 events. So there's a lot of a lot of different tests of strength for all of them, but it's the goal is to find out who is the strongest. So they're big weights, really big weights, heavy heavy events, and that's really the way that we try to do it. Test these guys to the maximum.
So this time you will not be competing in strongman. You're going to be
Oh yeah,
wrestling, right? How does that internally for you? You know,
it's different, man. It's different. The arm wrestling is very fun because in strongman it was, of course, I'm competing against the other guys, but
you're
you're
still,
just lifting,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
you're I have to move, pick up a stone, or I need to pick up a frame, or throw something or whatever. So I'm competing, of course, against everybody else's score, but really I'm never having to physically do something against one of the other guys.
Mm,
Where arm wrestling, this is it's a strength combat sport, in my opinion, right? So you're dealing with another human being. You don't know quite exactly what they're going to do, or how they're going to how they're going to act, what they're going to say, all this different stuff, and you're trying to focus on a game plan of what you want to execute, what you want to do. So I think that it's different. I'm really excited to see how it plays out, and I'm still very much learning, going into this type of super match scenario. Okay, it's different than just pulling in training and doing that. And there's going to be more adrenaline. There's going to be more hype. I know that Brandon Allen's going to come in ready to go. I mean, he knows this is a big opportunity for him. So I know that he's taken it very seriously, and I respect that, because I want him to take it seriously, and I want to have a really, really good challenge. So I think it's an interesting match for sure, man. I really do, and I think it's going to be fun for me, but hopefully fun for people to watch as well.
like in your own mind, what was the biggest lesson you learned from Eddie's match?
Oh my gosh, so many things. It's I should have approached that a lot of different ways. I think I was kind of so set on one game plan that I kind of kept going back to it, even though I should have adapted to what was happening and what Eddie was doing much better. So, I think I learned. I mean, you're going to learn anytime that you compete, right? And so Eddie acted a little bit different than I thought he was going to, which was kind of unexpected. Which I mean, it made it fun. I think for everybody watching, it was entertaining for sure. But
It was
he
great.
was, yeah, he was, and then he held on. He actually held on a lot more than I thought he was going to. And then I think it kind of turned to this thing where he was talking and saying, okay, you don't let go. I'm not going to, like whatever. But he should have got away from it, because my hand is a lot stronger than his. So it's like one of those things where almost by his talking, he almost backed himself into a corner where he wasn't going to let go. And so, outside the strap and that type of thing. But I was actually, ironically enough, I was wanting to get to a strap every time with him.
Mm.
So it's funny that it didn't play out that way, but I learned a lot. I mean, you take away a lot, you get more experienced, and I think the goal is to be a lot improved, and show that progression of being, just being better overall. I think that that's what my biggest goal is, to show that here, because there's people that are going to watch me, or say, okay, you're getting in arm wrestling, how serious, how much work are you putting in, how serious are you, that type of thing. And so I think the goal is to come out and execute well, and show that I'm progressing and moving forward. Am I saying that I'm going to be perfect? No, I don't think I probably will. And there's probably some scenarios where I'm going to have to learn in the moment as well, like depending on where Brandon goes and where we get. But hopefully I have figured out enough lanes where I can open it up and exploit his weaknesses, and be in a good spot. So, I think that I just want to show my improvement, show that I've been working hard. and put that on display. I mean, that's really what I want to get out of it for sure.
Yeah, from what I saw yesterday when Brandon came on the stream, he looks like he looks in great shape. He took it very
Yeah.
seriously, and and it, I think he's a step up from that he's been arm wrestling for quite some time, and
Mm.
he knows where his sticky point is, right? Because that's the thing. If every arm wrestler has their sticky point, if when they get to that point, everything kind of changes. So for you, like, just a real question, like King's move, like if someone gets you to a King's, it's very hard to overcome it. But do you have this interest where you like, what happens if he gets it there? Can I get out? Do you have that?
A little bit. I'm not going to lie, a little bit, man. I think everything that we have been talking about is to keep him away from that. So it's but also, I mean, it was funny. I was saying to the guys in training the other day, I was kind of like, I would love to, maybe round one we do this, round two we do this, and then round three I just kind of give him what he wants and I get out of it. And a couple of the guys are like, yeah, I don't know. I think winning is just more important. Like, just go win first, and then if you get there, you figure it out. But don't play into it. And me, I think from a competitive standpoint, it's like, okay, for example, let's just say I think my hand is quite a bit stronger than his. My wrist is a lot stronger. That's what I think. And so it's like maybe he doesn't even get to a strap. Potentially there's a possibility of that. And it's like, well, but I almost want to let him get to a strap so that I can prove, okay, we're going to arm wrestle on a strap, and you still can't get what you want. So it's weird. It's weird, that competitive thing. But I think executing and winning is going to be the most important thing. So because I don't want to get in a bad spot and I'm like, oh, I gave you what you wanted and now I'm not figuring it out, and the batch doesn't go the way I want it to. So yeah, I think probably anybody that's competitive, like I know that I've heard stories of John Brzezinski where he's like, he wants to go into a hook with somebody that's super strong in a hook, or he wants to almost give them to feel out and see if he can get through. But John is on that level, right? And it's like, well, maybe someday we talk more about that, but it's coming in and just being able to execute is it needs to be number one for sure.
I agree. Like I have this confidence, like I can do the similar things. I can just like kind of give rope to the other guy in the match, and because I feel confident of what I have done, and I have a lot of information of what
Sure.
how I can. And while you don't like, a lot of times I see guys like to showboat, and it's the worst thing. And it's the worst thing, you do like this, and then you can't do nothing, and
Oh
you
no, yeah. We
and
don't
the
want
guy
that.
will
Yeah.
have that moment forever, you know?
Yes, of course. Yeah. You don't want to talk like that and then have it backfire. No, that's not good.
Yeah. Tell me, how is things gonna look like before East versus West gonna be involved? So you had 5 matches set up, right?
Yeah, so we had five. I was kind of in the process of adding a couple more potentially. So the goal was to have around 7 or 8, and that's kind of where I thought we were going to end up potentially. But then all of this happened, and so you kind of switched over, and it was like, okay, you have five. We're gonna bring in five, and that way it's 10. 10 total, which I was completely fine with. So we were very deep in the planning of our event already. Before anything happened with East versus West, and it was we were going to go forward, right? So like all of that planning was already there. I was really excited about it. I've tried to take what I have learned from the events that I have gone to and also have watched, and say, okay, well, what can we potentially try to make a little bit better or improve on? And I think one of the big things, at least for me, watching, and I haven't been out in the crowd necessarily, but a lot of the events have happened in like hotel ballroom type of settings where you have this big crowd, but everybody's on the same level. So all the seats are on the same level, and you're sitting there. And I was like, gosh, if I was in the 20th row or 30th row or whatever, it's like, how are you going to see? So it's like you're yelling and screaming and getting excited. It's like, well, I can't see what's actually happening, or maybe you're trying to watch the screen instead of what's happening at the table or whatever. But, so I was really excited about that because the arena seating, that we'll have for people that come, if you're sitting up a little bit, it might even be better view. Like on the floor, of course, is going to be amazing, but it's like if you're up a little bit, you can have a viewpoint where you can see the table and you can see what's happening. So nobody's view is going to be blocked. So I was really excited about that. I think it's something that hopefully fans that come have a great time because they can watch and they're not trying to look around people or whatever. So that was one thing, planning side. And then from a production standpoint, we have our live stream team that comes in for the strongest man on earth, and we brought them in and kind of worked up. They're a very high level production. So they do the CrossFit Games, for example, and some major events where there's a lot of pressure, a lot of things have to happen. You need to see replays exactly at the right moment, and so we'll have a production truck on site. Like everything will be there. So from a commentary standpoint, and also people in the arena, people viewing the live stream, we should be able to deliver exact replays of moments if there's anything that's in question, any of that type of stuff. So it helps out the commentators and it helps out just the viewing experience overall. So I think that's my biggest goal, is just to deliver a quality product with that, and just make the fans happy, right? Like I think at the end of the day, like people that tune in, if they're going to come in and they're going to spend money to buy a ticket, I want them to have a good experience. And if they're going to spend money to watch the live stream, then I want them to also enjoy that and be happy with what they get. So that's the biggest thing. If we can do that, I will be happy. And I think that we're well on our way now to being in a good spot to be able to do that. So that was the plan before East versus West came in. And with them coming over and saying they didn't have the venue, and then everything that went down there, where it's like, hey, all right, come over, let's do this combined event. I didn't realize everything that was going on behind the scenes there. And it's just, I think the arm wrestling community in general, I think the general consensus is like, let's just get back to arm wrestling, let's move past it. And that's what I have wanted to do. That's what I want to do anyway. And it's unfortunate that we've got into this situation where some of the matches that were talked about weren't able to come across because certain guys aren't coming or whatever. So, I think that the card that we have, I think, is great. I think it's going to be super entertaining. And, for everybody that loves arm wrestling, we're going to try to introduce, some of the pullers and let you get to know them a little bit more, and things like this, right? It's like there's probably a lot of people on your channel that maybe haven't heard me talk as much or whatever, but it's just bringing the characters to life a little bit. That's what we're going to try to do, and I think it's going to be fun because there's some good matches, like really good matches. So
I want to ask you about the stronger matches, because
yeah.
we have Laws versus Martins.
Mm,
I seen Laws arm wrestling for years, and I have seen his progress. He's a good arm wrestler now. Like he's
mm,
still like like I say sometimes strength is a curse. When you can just think you can crush everything, it's a curse. And you arm wrestling is kind of sliding and gliding, right? But he's coming along great. Martin, he's fellow Latvian, but he lives in USA. So we talked a
yes.
little bit, but he hasn't been here now, so it couldn't work. But I know Derek worked with him. Like, do you think Martin put in the work where at least he's safe? You know what I mean?
Yes, I hope so. I was really happy to see that that he's at least doing some work on a table with Derek, and that I think Martinez, he's a very unique guy, right? Like he's different, he's kind of fun, he's kind of out there, whatever. But what I will say is with him is when he goes to compete, he really he can really internally get into a different spot and very much focus on what he has to do. So definitely a more of a technician when it comes to this. And I'm actually interested to see with the arm wrestling how that will go for him, because he's done some different stuff in the past, like Moss wrestling, where it's like the stick
Yeah,
wrestling.
I know myself. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, but again, you kind of you're dealing with another person, and what are they doing, And
Yeah.
I know Martins has done some like jujitsu training as well. So not to say that those things are directly going to correlate to arm wrestling, but he's experienced with another human and interacting in that way. And I think it's going to bring out something different in Martins. Like I think that it will. And Lawrence, people that have watched Lawrence with Strongman, he's a guy that, again, you talk to him normally, normal guy, whatever, right? But like if he goes to compete, and especially when he was a little bit younger, like he, was hitting himself with sticks and like, it was just like he would amp up to like this crazy spot, right? And I'm hoping some of that comes out. Like I think that he could potentially tap into a little bit of that. And if Martins is kind of like more internally focused, like I think they could have a really good battle. And I think that, obviously Lawrence, you would think from an experience standpoint would have the upper hand. Several different things with Martins. He does have a crazy strong hand. I would think his wrist is also pretty good. And then, from a technical standpoint, he does know how to move. He does know how to move his body pretty well. And like he's pretty well connected, I think, just from a lot of the things that he's done with training wise and that type of thing, movement based training. I think that if he can get that and stay in the right spot and not get in a rush, whatever, I think he'll stay safe for sure. And I think that it could get very interesting. It really depends on what Lawrence can do with that. So,
Yeah. That's because I know about those guys. I know that Eddie knows how to arm wrestle. The question is about Robert.
yeah, Robert. So supposedly, and the thing is, I had initial conversations with Robert, and
Yeah.
Oberst is kind of he's a unique guy, right? Like he just kind of goes off the grid a little bit, and you don't really hear too much, and then he'll come back in and he'll do like 10 different things and whatever. But Oberst apparently was training every single week, and I believe the guy's name was Alan Fisher. Um,
Okay, right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
so I don't know how much work he's been, if he's been consistent. He told me when we agreed on the match, he told me he was training every single week, and there was a group of guys at his gym that I think included Alan. I'm assuming he was in that same spot.
Mhm.
So if that's the case, it's Oberst can be very interesting. Like he's a big guy, but he played football in the past. Like he and again, I think he knows or can figure out how to move himself pretty well in different scenarios. So I also think the length of his arm, and again, his grip is not bad. I think him and Eddie would be very similar on grip strength
Mhm.
in that capacity. So if Oberst can get the height up, and Eddie, it depends on how much Eddie can open him up. I think if Eddie can open him up and get him exposed a little bit palm up, Oberst might have a really hard time with getting out of that again. But unless he's learned a little bit like how to deal with that. But Eddie, I think Eddie's made some improvements. I got to go with him a little bit over there in the UK, and I think that he's gotten better. He's definitely been focused on his fight training quite a bit, and I don't know, who knows with that, like how much more he wants to do with the fighting or whatever. But I know that he likes arm wrestling, and I think it brings something different out of him. But it is like arm wrestling. The thing that I've at least found for myself is it's something like you really need to be in it every single day, right? Like it's like something that's like I mean, I know for me, like every single day, if I'm not doing something every day, like I feel like I'm not making progress, right? So it's like every single day. And so when I was with Eddie, I have this. I think you might have seen it. That machine that I carry around.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I was like, we would be at his house, and oh yeah, man, I was all over it. So I was like, hey man, like we had been filming or doing whatever, and I was like, hey, I'd pull that out and strap it to pole or whatever, and so I made him go over and do that like with me every single day over there. But I think I think those two, what people don't realize is like they've got a pretty good history of going back and forth. And I think that if like the talking is going to be incredible, but if Oberst beats Eddie, at this arm wrestling match, he will not hear the end of it. For sure, he won't hear the end of it. Like it'll be something that'll be brought up like 20 years from now, 30 years from now. It'll for sure will be brought up. Oh, remember that time I kicked your ass at arm wrestling? Like that's what's going to happen. So I'm excited to see where Oberst is, because that's, I think, for a lot of people right now, just because he hasn't posted anything recently, like what's going on, like where are you at with it? But he was super excited when we agreed to it. He said he was training every single week. So as long as he's continued that, you would assume that he would be in a decent spot.
Okay, okay. Like I'm excited. I want to see. Like I think Eddie brings the heat. He always does, right? Uh, no one wants to lose to Eddie.
And also that vice versa, man. If Eddie wins, he won't let Oberst hear the end of that either, right? Like he hasn't said too much after our match because he didn't beat me. But if that would have been the other way around, I promise you, I would have been constantly hearing about it for sure, for
I,
sure.
I would think so. I watched recently a video where you guys went on a tank to get some milk.
Yes, yes.
It was so funny, like because like there's no space, right? You
No
can
space. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
great time in UK.
Yes,
Um,
for sure, man.
a lot of people have these questions. So because there was this video with you, Neil, and Devon came out talking about the rules. And
Yes.
now there's narratives going around about rule change and everything. And yesterday, Luke Polsher sent me a video. I posted it about the rules and how there's going to be two North American, two European refs,
Yes.
also camera ref and things like this. So it's all like makes sense. And yet people still asking like, oh, did they change the size of the pads? Did they like? I'm like,
So everything is going to, yeah, we for sure. I'm glad you asked that, because they're like, we should clear all that up. So everything, as far as the table is concerned, nothing is changing. So the elbow pads, the pin pads, the height, the size of the table, all that stuff is exactly what it needs to be, in my opinion. Like it needs to hold that standard. So that's not anything we have to worry about. As
mm,
far as the rules are also not changing. So it's going to be, the same as what East versus West has done with the rules. So the big difference is, if there, and you can't even really call them differences, it's just improvements. Is, again, we're going to have that screen, and like Luke said, the referee will be in front of the screen. So if there is any type of, where a referee wants to check a call or something, is asked about or whatever, that referee should have a gauge of what's going on, and be able to say it to them. Of course, the referees will still watch that and be able to see it in the moment. I think that the biggest thing that I'm wanting to change, if, and again, it's just an improvement, it's not a change, is I want the referee to be able to communicate with the crowd more clearly, right? So essentially what's going to happen is, let's just say that there was a challenge that happened, and the referees go off and look at the screen, they make their call, they walk back to the stage. They're going to be able to turn a microphone on and say, hey, we checked it out, and it actually was a pin, where, we have our winner here, this was a pin, so that the crowd knows, the commentators know, everybody knows what was called and what was looked at, right? So like those things, I'm wanting I don't want the crowd at any moment, if we can help it, to be wondering, well, why was that called, or what happened? Like, was it an elbow foul, or was it a false start? Or like, what, we don't even know what happened, but it was just a foul. So, we'll probably not talk about warnings, but I am wanting to essentially update the crowd with fouls. So if it was a foul, and then that other referee on the side will also keep the count of fouls, so that there's not any, depending on how much is going on the stage, somebody at least at every moment knows exactly what the count is and where things are. So it's just, it's being able to empower the referees, for sure, so that the referees feel like they can make the correct calls and they can see what they need to see, and they're not being pressured at all to do anything other than to enforce the rules that are there. So that's I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be really good. And then the only other thing, I think, from the contest standpoint is, with the athletes, we're going to limit the number of people they can have in their corner, so that, again, the referees aren't being pressured, so they're not being yelled at by a bunch of different people in the corner and a lot of people around, so that they can just focus on what they need to do and to make the right calls. So I'm really excited. I think it's going to be great. But like as far as people being concerned about the rules changing and all of these things being different, none of that changes, right? Like it's I know that yesterday Brandon and Devon brought up the King's move, and if you could drop below the table, obviously that's not happening. Like these things are just not, they're going to be enforced the same way, right? Like this is just the way it's going to be. So all the arm wrestling fans, like anybody that's been saying, yes, we had on that podcast with Devon and Neil, all it was meant to be is a discussion about rules, what could, and I think that it's, again, we want to make it so that people understand what's going on. I'm really hoping that we have a lot of new fans, people like, for example, we have, thousands of people that come in to watch the strongman contest. What I'm hoping is that some of them come watch the arm wrestling, and with this communication and that, like, I want them to be able to understand what's happening in the match, this type of stuff. So I think it's going to be really good, man. I think it's going to be really good overall.
I think it's a good improvement because so now like if something happens, referee gives the signal, right?
Yep,
But not everyone understands the signals. So,
exactly.
and
Yep,
sometimes, like when we're doing commentary, there's been a lot of episodes when the camera tilts to the one guy in the corner and ref shows something and we have no idea it happened, right? So
exactly.
it's not communicated to us, so we don't know. And then we're like, what's going on? Like, why this ended? Like the whole thing, why we have a rematch with Devon and Alex, it was
Yes,
just no one was there to tell them like just one foul, guys. They
exactly.
have to continue, right? And everyone just left. And 2 days later, Alex is like, did I lose? You know?
Okay.
But we
We
have a
should.
good match. I think that will be a really good match. I think Alex learned a good lesson, so has Devon. So now it's not going to be the same for sure. It's going to be different.
How, how do you see it going? Out of
I still
curiosity, how do you see?
I still see Devon as a big favorite.
Okay.
But if Alex doesn't do some I would say I think he was thinking he will press from the go where his back pressure and his top roll is still good. I would say
Yep.
go for a press if your wrist gets taken, then you go. You don't give it up too much, right? I think there's a lot of possibilities for him to do some good work there and actually change it. But I still, if I had to put money down, Devon, it's
Yeah.
with
It's
with right, I think Devon high.
yes. Yeah. I'll tell you what, the left-handed match is going to be,
I
I
think
think it's going to be very interesting because the other thing is how Alex will deal with I'm going to call it like mental warfare, right? Like, and this is just the Devon effect of like you're in a match with him. He kind of plays this game all week and comes into it and kind of wears you down. And then by the moment you're up on the table, it's almost like he's throwing you out of your game and you're a little flustered, and I think with Alex, like, because they've recently been on the table, it's I think it's going to be a little bit different where maybe that doesn't come into play as much. But again, I think both of them, like you just said, I think both of them will have learned and felt out what they maybe could have done different in that match. And I think if anything, man, is going to make it even more exciting because now they've met. It ended the way it did without being completely done, so to speak. So now it's like, all right, well, let's see where it goes. Like let's see where it ends up. So
Yeah, that's one of the like that match makes a lot of sense to me because it's unfinished business. So there's good backstory, and I
yeah,
think I really hope it will at least give us more contested match than last time. And I think there's good possibilities there. I'll read quickly because there's a super chat, and you know this guy, Luke Polsher. Uh,
okay,
Working with Brian, Robert, and Dexter has been great. Very good and open communication. Yeah.
awesome, man.
Luke is a good friend and great. I think he's one of the guys that really wants things to succeed. He wants it fair, and he really puts in work to get like because all these implementations about the rules, we had discussions about it. We talked about this, and he's now working hard to get it all put in, to get the
Amazing.
best.
Yeah. Luke's a great guy. he stopped by. He was at a conference and stopped by last week. All the weeks are running together. I believe it was last week, and then we were able to talk through all this. And I know that he wants nothing else than it to run smoothly and to be executed at a high level. So it's going to be good for sure.
Through the Fingers podcast, very excited to see you smash Brandon. Also, would love for you to come through the Fingers podcast after to talk about it. That's some YouTube channel.
Fair enough, man. I appreciate that. We're training hard for it without a doubt.
Yeah. Uh, so East versus West is coming and putting on some of their own matches, right? I think you already saw the young Rickard from Australia
Yep.
versus Pavlo Debrdyanov.
Yep.
So that's a very interesting match. And like there's more. I think because like listen, there's been talks about these guys pulling you, right? I seen like Rickard versus Brian for the future or whatever. And there was
Yep.
also this guy what we call Viking from
Mm.
Philip Larson. Have you met Philip? I think you met Philip, right?
I did. I did. Yeah. We met, I believe it was Atlantic City.
Yes. Yes.
He was there, and him and Devon got on the table a little bit. But yeah, big, obviously a big guy, right? Like big
Really.
guy and strong. So I'm excited
Yeah.
for him for his match with Matt Mask. I think that's going to be awesome. You know, and Rickard, I think it's going to be very interesting to see him as well. You know, with Pablo, and I think both those guys, it's going to be a battle. I think, you know, it's I think, and I don't know who you would say is the upper hand. Maybe it's Pablo that has the upper hand there. A little bit, or would go in maybe as a favorite, but I think the opportunity, right? Like sometimes you get an opportunity and you get an open door,
Hmm.
and that's what it takes, right? So it's like, you know, you're hungry, and I think that's probably right now where Rickard is just like, hey, I'm hungry, I get an opportunity, let's swing for the fences, right? Like I think that's what it's going to be, which again, I think that could be any of these matches could be, you know, like match of the night, so to speak, right? Like any of them I think potentially could be that.
Uh, Question. So sometimes we do like pre-shows. The last few events when we had tournaments, we put the finals as the pre-show. Is
Yeah.
that something that's also going to be planned?
So unfortunately, we will, because of the addition of the other super matches, we don't have time in the schedule to bring that over.
Gotcha.
You know, it's unfortunate. It's just like our timing, because we got everything in the whole schedule. And so
Yes.
we actually had these conversations, and I was like, gosh, it would have been great. But it's just like the timing of the event. There's no way to tack on more time on the front of it, because it would just bump it further back. So yeah, we're really, to be fair, I think there's a number of really good pullers coming to the tournament. And, you know, the goal is to build that up and make it a really, really good thing. But yeah, that's the limitations of time. That's the biggest thing that I think we're running into across the board, is just when do you schedule everything? You know, how do you make it all fit and work? And especially with the other events that are happening during the weekend. So
Yeah, I understand. Like it's a lot and it's a schedule, and so for the people watching, it's going to be a little different than usual East versus West or King of the Table experience. But I don't think it's going to be worse. I think it's going to be just different, right? You will be the judges because some people like some stuff, some don't like some stuff. I think it's going to be awesome, especially for the people there compete in tournament most of the time. Like now we live in this crazy era where there's arm wrestling fans that don't arm wrestle, which is crazy to me. Because I
yeah,
grew up when only ones that were watching arm wrestling competition were the arm wrestlers, right? They were the
yeah.
only ones that were interested. Now there's you're gonna meet hundreds of people, thousands of people that don't
Yeah.
even arm wrestle, which is crazy.
No, I'll tell you what, man. Once you can tap into that, it's very ironically enough, man. I feel like with strongman, kind of the same thing, right? Like strongman is something that was, you know, very, you know, kind of niche, and like
Mhm.
you guys would get together and do it, and in like a, you know, a parking lot or whatever. Like you do all that, and you know, a lot of times it was just the main fans were the family and friends, right? Like that was the only people that really watched. And then it's expanded into, people that are just truly fans. I mean, we have people that fly in from all over the world just to watch the strongman con. I mean, they'll come from Australia and from all across Europe, and like, so people come in just to watch it, and they don't do strongman, right? And I'm kind of hoping we can do the same thing with arm wrestling, where if you build up, if you build up the athletes to a spot where people know them and they can relate to them in some way, shape, or form, or they're just a fan of their personality or whatever. Like once you get that, then the fan base gets much bigger, and I think I think it's already there with arm wrestling. I think there's a lot of people that certainly do arm wrestle, but I think that people are interested in it. And the thing that I would say with arm wrestling too is it's something that if it were to happen, I mean, back when you're in school, right? If two kids were going to arm wrestle and they were in the lunchroom, everybody's going to watch, right? Same thing in a bar. Like if it happened, two guys are just like, oh, let's arm wrestle in a bar. Everybody's going to stop and watch it, even if they don't know what is happening, right?
Mhm.
It draws you in, and so I think if we build that up and the fans can see, like, hey, I just want to see what happens, right? Like I may not know all the technical components of it or what's going on, but I want to see who wins out of this. Once you tap into that, I think and this is something that, fighting, for example, like the UFC, they build the characters up so much where you're invested in it because you like one of them and you potentially don't like the other one, right? And so it's like, well, I'm rooting for this guy better win, and I want to see, I want to see this fight. So it's kind of, arm wrestling. Obviously, you're not throwing punches, but it's enough of a combat sport that somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose, right? So like, you get people invested in that, and I think it goes to a good spot.
Yeah. I think we're slowly on our way there, right? We see like Devon has broken that ceiling, right? He's already somewhere there in the ether, but
Yep.
we need more, right? We need more. We need more. I know you're a busy guy. I'm not gonna take more of your time, but I have like just the last question. So in your own mind, this is your answers. Like, what do you think is cooler? A hook or a top roll? Like for you, like when you pull, you think like this is a cool.
I, is this a biased question?
No, no,
Not.
no,
I,
no.
I'm guessing you would probably answer hook.
Actually, I do think cooler is to take someone's hand, like when you get
Okay.
there.
I would say just purely because I've done more of it, I would have to answer top roll to that. And it's again just more orthodox arm wrestling, like what I've been working on more.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna lie though, the times getting into a hook is pretty fun. Like it's something that like you're testing yourself in a different way.
Mhm.
Um, so if you made me answer, I would probably say top roll, just because you can kind of demoralize somebody else because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm just being opened up completely,
No,
and,
yeah.
being exposed, and that then maybe their hand and wrists, like all that stuff. So that's what I would answer with. But
It's a great
who
answer.
knows? Maybe down the road we're going to change that to hook. I don't know. I don't know.
Sometimes the coolest thing is the thing that you cannot do, right? So for me, it's top roll. I was like, because I can top roll, but when I top roll, I still use my side pressure. So I just push the arm like this and
Got
or
it.
a little bit back. But I never like sometimes I have taken like the hand, like, but sometimes it's pretty cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's fair, man. That's completely fair. I love it.
Um, Give me two or three arm wrestlers that you like to watch. That you like, oh, this is like whatever, however, not
So
Devon. No
yeah,
Devon.
not Devon. Yeah. Well, yeah, why would I say Devon?
Obvious. Obvious.
I would say John Brzezinski. You got it. Like just watching his like hand control and the way that he approaches especially some of his older stuff.
Mhm.
That's been super fun to watch. Man, this is difficult because I've watched a lot. I would say I would say that. Um, I have watched quite a bit of Ermies actually. And mainly his match with Michael Todd, because I've been studying a lot of like the King's move, and that was kind of a master class, if you
That was a
will.
masterclass. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was awesome. So I've watched, quite a bit of that. And then, of course, Levon, right? Like, just the power and, the way that he approaches, I think he's on top of being very powerful, also very smart with, how he approaches different matches, different opponents. And then you're just completely dismantles people. So it's been fun to watch that as well. So I would say that, but I could kind of keep going down the list. But it's been fun, man. I try to watch things certainly to learn, and I think some of it is that, like, just studying a little bit of the nuances and small things, and how everybody kind of approaches it differently. So it's interesting, and then from there I'm trying to take stuff that maybe I could try or do a little bit, and obviously my frame is going to be a little bit different than certain guys as well. So yeah, but I mean, like, guys like Alex Kurdecha and Vitali, like, being taller and bigger, and so I've tried to study some of their a little bit of their stuff as well. Just again, how do they adapt being taller and bigger with the table and that type of thing. So I think it's across the board, man. It's like and I've said this before, but I mean, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the sport, right? Like, it's something that I have watched, and even when I was 100% in strongman, it's something I was excited about. I was still like into watching, and I think a lot of people don't really realize that. It's like, oh, I was done with strongman, and now it's like I'm just jumping into arm wrestling and whatever. So it's something I was interested in. I obviously just couldn't train for arm wrestling, doing strongman, other than, I've always liked grip stuff and that type of thing. But, translating it over now, my training has gone specifically to arm wrestling now, right? Which, again, like I said, if I'm not doing something every single day, like, to get better, I feel like I'm behind, and I'm trying to play catch up, right? So I
Mm.
think that keeping that mentality, I think everybody has high expectations, and I think that's great. But at the same time, I also put a lot of pressure on myself to perform, right? I want to do a good job and perform, and it's tough when you come over to a different sport with what I have done in the past. Immediately the expectations are sky
Yes.
high, right?
Yes.
Like, that's just what is
A year ago you were supposed to pull 11. You know that,
yeah,
right? Year
yeah.
ago, right? You're way behind, way behind.
I tell you what, man. One thing I'll say with Levon is he keeps bringing it up, right? Like, he keeps bringing it up. So I think he's kind of like wanting me to
Yes.
improve, right? Like, he's like, hey, Brian, all right, keep going. Like, I think he wants that to happen. It's just when can I get there? And actually, like, I would, love to do that, but what's the timeline, right? It just takes, as it's just like the time to get better. But um, I'm definitely improving a lot, and like I said, I think I can put a lot of that on display here on August 15th, and hopefully people are excited about that. So
Oh, listen, people are very excited. And I can tell you, like, whoever you are right now, a year later, you would absolutely destroy this version of you. Like, this is because arm wrestling is a skill. It is a skill. You learn it and then you become it. And then it's very hard to forget about it. And it's hard to not know because while you're still starting, you have to think, right? And when you don't
absolutely,
think, you're like, oh, okay, right? And then you just react. And then you just can have I believe more fun. Like for me, arm wrestling is the most fun thing I do. I can't wait to
sure,
train. I can wait to practice. Like that's the only thing I really want to do.
love
Uh,
it. I love it, man.
Listen, man, I appreciate you coming on, telling about Shaw Classic, Strongest Arm on Earth, East versus West, all coming down uh, August 15 and 16, right?
That's it, man. Yeah, 15, 16, 17th. Yep. So
17. I'm going to put links in description, guys, as well as the pinned comments, so you can all check it out. Fly in. I'm going to be there. Neil's going to be there. Brian's going to be there. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you better be ready to sign some autographs, man. You have all your fans coming in, and yeah, it's gonna be good, brother. Really good.
It's gonna be awesome. Okay, guys, thank you for watching. I can say stay strong, love arm wrestling. Thank you, Brian.
Absolutely. Thanks, brother.
Okay, and finishing the stream. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. This was
Absolutely, brother. Yeah.